Why do we wire?
To move our branches to the areas we want them, to bring them down.
Okay, yeah, but that's all this.
That's all that.
Okay, so the next thing, well, one of the things, is we wire, to wire the tree into the pot.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. So when it blows over, the top falls off.
Hopefully it won't. So we wire to secure the root system into the
Right,
pot.
stay in the pot.
And the third one, so the third one is we wire the little screens.
Oh, the screens. Too easy.
Yeah. So we normally do the most accepted types of wire, anodized aluminum. And I didn't bring copper, but copper wire. The thing is, the anodized, well, anodized just means that it's kind of like coated or colored. It's easier to work with, it's cheaper, and you could really reuse that wire. Once you take the wire off, say it's a big strand like this, you just get 2 pieces of pliers and go like this, and it gets all the kinks out. So you could reuse the aluminum. Copper, it's pretty hard to do that. But so for this class, we're gonna do aluminum. Oh, and the other thing is, anytime you use wire to secure roots down or secure the tree down, make sure it's aluminum. If you use copper wire, copper oxidizes, causes copper. So, were you taking a beginning class?
Yeah, the beginning class.
So you sit right up here.
I guess I get front row seat.
Yeah, here, this is for you. We're gonna wire first.
Gives you a dead branch.
Anytime you use wire to secure a tree into the pot where it's gonna be touching the soil, you wanna use aluminum. And the reason for that is copper wire oxidizes, and it may have a minor effect on the roots, but I've noticed on some of my trees that when I had that copper wire, going down to the bottom of the pot, and it would oxidize it, turn that blue color, and you could see some roots have been killed by the oxidation. So always use aluminum when you're securing a tree in a pot. Okay. Okay. So now, when we apply a piece of wire to a tree, it's always best to try to use both ends of the wire, so that you're not. The more you apply the wire, it takes longer to get your project done. So what we'll do is we're going to wire one branch with one end and come down and wire another branch with the other end. Okay, let me just kind of show you real quick. I'll just give it these. I'm going to take these leaves off so you can see what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to wire this branch, and I'll choose for you this branch and this branch. I'm going to wire. Now, aluminum wire we use to gauge the size is almost the size of the branch that we wire. And copper wire is usually about 1/3 to maybe half the thickness of the branch is the size of the copper. Okay. So you could even, if you're not sure, you could get a piece of aluminum and go like this. If it doesn't move and the wire bends, then you need a thicker wire. So that's about right. Okay. Okay. Now it's recommended that you use about a 45-degree angle on the tree. Okay, on the main branch. And I usually like to start on the main branch and secure it. And you want to do kind of an even pattern all the way up. Okay. If you, this reminds me, if you put the wire too close together, it reduces its tensile strength. Like this is, say, a 45-degree angle, right? This is kind of the optimum strength for that wire that it's going to be able to bend. If you put it close together, it's almost like a spring. And you have a spring that's real tight like that. You don't have the strength of the wire. So you want to do it, about 45 degrees. Now, when you're wiring, I guess you could take leaves out of the way, but I just wanted to show this so you could see it. Okay. This. Okay, so, and this is just a suggestion that when you wire, you want to have on the bottom one, the wire go under the branch. On the top one, it could go under or over. Okay, but you want to have that wire kind of wrap out just about horizontally to the branch, and then you come over and go underneath. So this one, I'll just do it. I'll change this. So the upper branch is going above the branch. And what you want to do too is when you're wiring, you want to make sure that it's really snug on there. You don't want to see a big gap where you're attaching the wire from the main trunk to the side branch. Okay, so we all have this.
I thought that when you wired, if you wanted the branch to come down, you were on the top of it. And if you wanted to go up, you were on the bottom of it.
Yes, that makes it easier. That's true.
Oh, okay.
That's true. That is correct. So if you could wire this one, this one. And if you could wire, I'll give you this. Wire this one and this one. Okay, and if you could wire this one and this one. Usually on one of them, like say, you could start at the bottom, but I'll make that wire long enough so that it'll do the job on the bottom one and then come up to the top of it. A lot of times we recommend when you're figuring out how long the wire should be is to go the length of the branch, the trunk in between and the other branch, and then maybe add about 25% more wire. That should cover it. Oh, do some wiring. Okay. So here, this is your sample.
Oh, it's pretty.
Okay. All right. So I'd like you to wire. Let's wire this one and this one.
Together?
Yeah, we use one end on the top one end on the bottom.
Okay.
I know you just missed a little bit here.
Got it.
It's okay, you know, it's not perfect.
All right.
So it's kind of like, where am I saying? Kind of like that.
Got it.
Okay, how's it look?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. Okay. That's
I
good.
started in the middle and went up this way.
Okay.
And I went down and then went this way.
Okay. Yeah,
So
this
kind
could
of
be a little bit more even.
tighter.
Even, like say there's a little kink there, but a little more uniform. And yeah, just a little tighter there. And this looks good. What those, see there's like a little
Gap,
light.
yeah.
So what we want to do is come in tighter right into that crotch, and then makes it more secure. So you can go like this,
One more.
and right in there, like that.
Oh, okay.
And then go
So
up.
that doesn't restrict it from growing, or?
Well, if you leave it on too long, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's just temporary. Okay, so wiring, take a look at yours. Wiring is just really a temporary thing. You want to keep it on long enough that it does its job. Oh, hi. You want to take a chair over there and?
Okay.
Long enough to do the job. Okay, so there's a little gap there.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, so that means that we just need to get right in there closer.
okay.
And a lot of times in the spring, we have this real big flush of growth that comes out, you know, and so we have to watch our wire in the spring that we don't leave it on too long because it could girdle the trunk, branch. So we go right in there. How's it going? Oh, you're pretty good. Comes out so fast, that's good, that, you know, we might only leave it on a couple months, 3 months maybe, because it'll start to expand and make wire marks. So it's kind of a big no-no, right, for us bonsai people.
Probably terrible.
Oh, well, we want to wire, okay, so we want to wire maybe this one and this one.
Oh, okay, all right.
So use one end on here. Okay. How's it look? That's good. That's good. Okay, so this one here, it's kind of stretched out a little. It would have been a little better if we did one more wrap around the trunk and then came horizontally across. Yeah, but you know that'll hold. And sometimes if there's like an angle like that, you may not be able to get the downward movement because the wire's holding it up.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so it should come around. Yeah, one more loop. Okay, I think you guys got it. So that's our wiring. Let's see. Let's make sure it's covered everything. Okay, so the second part of this is we want to talk about general care. Oh, you have a question?
No.
General care. And there's a few things that I kind of want to zero in on a little bit. Soil, first of all. You know, there's all kind of recipes for bonsai soil mixes, and everybody does different ones. Okay, yeah, so that could have maybe come around one more time, because it kind of stretched out there a little.
Got it.
But no, it's good,
Okay,
it's
thank
good.
you.
And so everybody has, you know, their recipe. Like I personally use cactus potting soil. Plus cinders. And one thing about this cactus potting soil is that it has kind of a lot of the things that we need in our soil mixes. We need like an organic material to help hold the moisture and help hold the nutrients better. It has sand, it has pumice for drainage. And cinders is the thing I add. It's a type of lava rock. And it's, they call it a 5/8 cinders, is screened cinders. So the little pieces are about like that big. And I usually do about half and half, 50/50.
You don't use any akadama?
No,
Really?
no. And you can. It's great. You know, it's just.
It's just clay. I mean,
Yeah,
I just wonder
yeah.
why everybody says, gotta use akadama.
Yeah, well, akadama, yeah, a lot of people use it, and it's good, you know. And but what I kind of use the lava instead of the akadama. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I should have brought samples. Yeah, this is the cinders.
They look like raisins.
Yeah, it looks like raisins.
Can we eat
Oh, they're really not like lava rock.
And pumice is actually in that cactus mix. The next one comes around.
Yeah, I use a lot of the.
Now,
And that's the pumice.
akadama is like a fired clay material, and eventually it kind of breaks down, and so it kind of collects at the bottom, and it kind of gets, if you don't change it right away, it stays kind of mucky. When you repot with the cinders, it's just about in its original state when you put it in. I mean, if you cleaned it and sifted it, you could probably use it again. So it's safer that way, and it's a whole lot cheaper. So I go by, you know, being cheap. So.
Affordable.
Cost effective.
That's right, that too. So that's what I use, you know. And like say if you have maybe a pine tree, older pine tree or older juniper, I'll make this closer to 79%. It's a real old pine tree. I'll increase the lava.
And it's 70% cactus or, 70% cinders?
70 to 90% cinders.
Okay.
And the rest would be
And that would
cactus.
be like,
Yeah.
okay, the different 30.
So that's what I use. And one thing that you want to try to do is you want to control that pH. You know what pH is? pH is the acidity or alkalinity of the soil. And you want to keep it ideally in the 6 to 6.5 range in pH. That's ideal. What happens is, especially some alkaline sensitive trees like Japanese maples, if this pH goes higher than 7.5, 8, you'll get a lot of burning. Trident maples are like that too. You'll get burning on the edges in the summertime. And people think, wow, it does that in the summer because it's the heat, but it's really the pH. People think, they equate it because it happens and is more noticeable in the heat kind of, but it's really the pH. So try to keep the pH. Now, you can use sulfur additives to the soil to make the pH better. Some fertilizers, well, I'm gonna get ahead of myself. Some fertilizers have a lot of sulfur in it, And the more sulfur you have, brings the pH down. That's your fertilizer. Okay. And we'll talk about fertilizers in a second. Okay, so light, now, of course, the more direct sunlight you can keep your trees living and healthy in, the better. Because if you have too much, say if we have too much shade, the internodes are going to stretch out more. And you'll have to really make sure you trim those back. But in full sun, the internodes are kind of a natural size and it stays denser and tighter. So light, ideally, the most sun you can give it. Yes. But now everybody can't always have them in full sun because they have to work, right? And maybe you don't have an automatic watering system that keeps them moist enough. So a little bit of shade is you could do, but probably not more than maybe 40% shade. And like a saran cloth or shade cover. If you go too much more than that, then your internodes start to stretch out. So 40% shade, and whether it's in the sun or in the shade, you want to make sure that you rotate your tree so it gets even light all the way around. Ask me questions if there's any questions.
How much water does this need? Because my little plant that I won last month
Uh-huh.
is getting pretty crunchy. And I'm watering him in the morning,
Okay.
and he's been in full sun, and I put him into our little garden where he gets some shade in the late afternoon.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like the water is just coming out of the little pot that he's in, and it's not enough to
It's
keep
not
him
holding the moisture.
moisturized.
Okay. So what you might do, I can't remember what the tree you got. But
I don't even know, it's just one little stick.
okay.
I'll send
So
you a
what
picture.
you might want to do is add some kind of potting soil or mixture that has a little bit more organic material in it. And that'll help hold the moisture longer.
Soil or something like
Or
moss?
like a potting soil.
A pot, I've got potting soil, I can do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And then just check his pH to keep it in that range.
Right.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, you really, when you do water, you want to water enough so it drips out the bottom. But if it's like just runs through.
That's what it is.
Yeah, you need something to hold the moisture.
Okay.
That makes us a little too porous.
Sorry, Lindsay?
Yeah.
Sorry to bother you.
No.
How do you check pH?
Well, it's easiest with a little pH meter that you could get from a nursery.
Okay.
Yeah, you stick it in there when it's moist and it'll read the pH of it.
Okay.
Yeah. They have litmus paper and that kind of thing, but it's easier with just a little meter.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they're like $7.99 or something for those things. Okay, so live. And then let's talk about fertilizers. Everybody, that's like soil. Everybody has a different fertilizer. What do you use?
I can't remember the name of this. It's a good. Oh, it's made here in California. Good Earth or Good something.
Okay. Is it organic fertilizer?
Yes.
Okay, all organic. Okay.
It comes in a tablet.
Oh, okay. Okay, like about that big.
Yes.
Okay, and you kind of stick
Gray,
those on
and I
top.
just stick it
Yeah,
in
those
there.
are good. Those are really good. Okay, and they're kind of a slow release kind of.
Yes.
Do you change it like every couple months or something?
Well, usually it disintegrates.
Oh, okay, by itself. So when
Yeah.
it's almost
and then
gone.
I add another one.
Okay, all right. Anybody else use certain different kind of fertilizers? Or?
Something, I want to say it had frog in it, some kind of frog fertilizer.
Oh, what is that?
Happy, maybe Happy Frog.
Yeah, there's a that's that drug company.
We are drugging our
Yeah,
plants.
yeah,
Fine.
yeah. That company came about with all the marijuana growers. But yeah, they have really good, they have liquid fertilizers and they
They
have
do.
organic granular fertilizers. Okay, anybody else use? BioGold, oh, okay, yeah, that's a Japanese, is that still around? This is a Japanese kind of a organic pellet.
Triangular
Yeah.
pellet cake.
Yeah.
So I just put them in one of those wire or basket things where there's like a stake at the bottom.
Yeah.
You stick it in the soil and then it releases as you water.
Oh.
Okay,
Are they
good.
like little dirt kind of colored?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
little
I have that
triangular.
too, and they came in a big bucket.
Mine came in a like a pouch thing, but I don't know if they have buckets.
I got mine in a big bucket, 'cause I got that too.
Okay.
But I didn't like it as much as I liked that other stuff. I wish I could remember the name of it.
Okay, so there's organic and chemical fertilizers, okay? The organic fertilizers, in fact, when I started bonsai, that's all we used. Let's see, cottonseed meal, blood meal, and bull meal. We'd make like a little cakes ourselves, you know, put it in a baking pan, let it dry, and we kind of cut it up. And we'd make our own little cakes, you know. But, you know, it gets time consuming, so I don't kind of do that anymore. What I like personally, and organics are good, but there's the only drawback I see with some organics that maybe break down too fast is that it clogs the air pores in the soil. So it tends to, if it's a type that breaks down quickly, it'll clog those pores and you'll have to repot a little more often. But actually like you could even do a liquid fish emulsion. It stinks, but it works really well too. So what I like to use, and some people use Miracle Grow. It's, I don't know, it's a quick fertilizer. They have all different kind of Miracle Grow. Some make it more acid, but that's a good one but you almost have to do it like once a month. You know, and in our busy schedules, we don't always have time to go out there once a month to fertilize. So what I use is this stuff called ammonium phosphate. It's a chemical.
What turns your lawn green?
Ammonium phosphate. It's 1620 13% sulfur. So it's a high nitrogen, but what's good about this fertilizer that I've found is that it dissolves quick and it goes through the soil quick. And in that interim period where it goes through the soil, plants could absorb it quickly. The 13% sulfur creates an acid condition, makes my soil in that 6 to 6.5 range. And I'll feed probably about every month and a half, 2 months with this stuff. So that's what it looks like.
Do you just sprinkle it in, or
Uh-huh.
what is it?
Yeah, so a pot like this, a bonsai pot about this oval, I might use about maybe a teaspoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's usually from like Home Depot and stuff?
Not always. Yeah, it's kind of a commercial thing. I sell it, but you have to go through like a commercial fertilizer company. But ammonium phosphate, I think it works well. Let's see. Okay, now if you've seen different fertilizers, some have pellets that are different colors mixed together. Okay, those are fertilizers that are put together to create that, you know, like say the 1620 0% of fertilizer. But the better fertilizers are fertilizers that are all one color. That means that those each pellet is homogeneous and it dissolves all at one time altogether. So if you have a choice, kind of look in that bag and see, okay, if it's all one color, it's a little better and more uniform feeding. Okay. So ammonium phosphate, that's what I use. I do have a triple 14. That's a slow release. And I use this on my growing plants, you know, just like growing cans and containers. I'll use it that way on those. And this triple 14, it's called Apex. Lasts about almost 3 months feeding. And so it's good, like when you're growing stuff, you just throw it in there, you know, quarterly, say, feed. And that, say a pot like this, or say a 5-gallon pot, I'd use like maybe half a handful in there. And then just, now, there's other slow release fertilizers that like, it's called Osmocote. You might have seen that at some nurseries. Osmocote is a slow release if the tree is in the ground, say. If it's in a pot where it gets watered like every day, then it releases too much fertilizer. So Osmocote is really not the best slow release fertilizer. So you have to kind of do a little research and see which ones release over a longer period of time. So fertilizers in wintertime, like from about late November, early December through probably about through most of January, I stop fertilizing. I let the plants get a little rest, and then I start picking up in the January, early February.
Oh, quick question back to fertilizer, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Let's say I can't get ammonium phosphate, or I can't get Apex, I can't get 14, 14, 14. Does it really matter, like what kind of fertilizer I pick up?
No, as long as it has the criteria, okay? So whatever fertilizer you use, it's ideal if it can have a lot of sulfur in it, which creates an acid condition. It's better if it releases over, if it's a slow release fertilizer and that's what you want it to do, to release over 2 to 3 month period. And the last thing, it should not inhibit the water percolation. It shouldn't clog up the aeration of the soil. So those 3 things, if it does that, then it's good for you. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of different fertilizers. Yeah.
So what do the 3 numbers stand for?
Oh, the 3 numbers, yes, that's important, huh? Okay. The first number is nitrogen. Second one is phosphorus. And this one doesn't have it, potassium, but the last one's potassium.
Potassium?
Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
What are each of those elements used for in those particular plants?
Okay, so
Sensei.
nitrogen, there's always a smart aleck. No, nitrogen is used for growth and greening, okay? Growth and greening. Phosphorus is mainly for flower production and also root production. Potassium is mainly for stem and root production. So this one doesn't have that in there, but over that period, all these years, it really hasn't made that much difference, because I think with my soil mix, it has enough potassium in that soil to counteract that. And then sulfur, if it has a sulfur on there, that's for making the ground more acid. Did that answer your question?
And the numbers, does it matter, like the magnitude of the number, does that make a difference, like a 5, 5, 5 versus a 14, 14, 14?
Oh, okay. Not really. The only thing is, yeah, it does have, if you have a tree that needs extra phosphorus for blooming, maybe you have a tree that you really want it to grow more. You want to have a higher nitrogen. It's a lot of times it's safe to get a triple 14 because it covers all your bases, and you can put it on just about anything. You know? So a triple 14 is, or triple 15 or whatever. Triple is kind of a safer thing to get. All right. Okay, one more time. Okay, root pruning is important, right? Because if we have say we have a bonsai in a pot like this, and the root ball gets all root bound. What happens is on most bonsai is that it gets so solid that when you put water out there, this area right under the trunk gets so solid that the water, when you're putting water on there, goes around it like this. And many times if you leave it too long, that area, the roots kind of die back under there. Okay. So an average is about every 3 to 4 years you want to take the tree out and root prune it, put new fresh soil in. Let's say we lift this tree out of the pot and root pruning it. We want to take out about maybe at least a third of that soil mass. So we're going to reduce it at least a third, and then we want to concave it underneath there to reduce the amount of root boundness or tightness of the roots in it. So if you look at it underneath, it's like this concave there. And then we rake it out, put it back in the pot with some fresh soil. All in this area. And that's why when we have this concave area, when you're repotting, you want to put like a little mound of soil at the bottom of the pot, and then you push that root ball over that mound of soil so it gets that soil up into that concave place. And then you add soil and use your chopstick and get bigger pockets out. Okay. So root pruning depends on the tree. Some older conifers maybe withstand maybe 5 or 6 years, you know. Most deciduous trees you want to be pretty consistent with. If you can repot ideally about every 3 years at the most, that'd be great. But the tree will tell you, if you don't root prune enough, you'll get dieback, and then because of maybe this thing here, it may dry out really quick too, because this root ball doesn't soak up underneath. So yeah, the tree will kind of tell you if it's needs root pruning. Okay, and lastly, pruning through the season. Every tree, I can't really tell you about every tree, but every tree is going to have a different kind of growing, pace or growing spurts that come out through the year. Most of the time, it's in that April growth spurt, and then a lot of times there's another one let's see, September, maybe early September. So those times, like some trees you could even repot, if you defoliate, you could even repot before the September growth spurt, because it'll kind of go slow down and then it'll start shooting out again in September. So that's another, but anyway, every tree is going to have different kind of growth habit. And some trees, like Japanese maples, you might let it grow like 2 to 3 buds. say this comes out in the spring. So it comes out, and I don't know if you noticed, but when the leaves come out, each set of leaves gets bigger as it goes out in the growth season. So in the spring, if you're just maintaining the foliage to keep it tight and dense, then we may move it so there's just 2 sets of leaflets, or sometimes even maybe from the top of the tree, we might just leave 1 set of leaflets. And then growth comes on, you're feeding it, and it's gonna shoot out this way. But hopefully it's shorter. Okay, hopefully it's a shorter growth. Junipers, they have, I don't have a juniper here, let me show you. Is this a short juniper? Okay, so junipers have these what's called scale growth that come out this, and you can, if it gets too long, you could bring it back to and cut it back like right in here, just bring it back, and then your new apical end will produce another end like that. It used to be where they recommended plucking, plucking these things, but plucking doesn't always thin out the tree properly. So nowadays we trim, we go inside there and take a little end off like that. And junipers, we try not to go across the scale foliage, because what happens is if you go across the foliage like this and just cut like that, all those cut ends will get a burn mark. So that's why we go down to the main stem and just cut off the end. Okay. But yeah, every tree's gonna have a different growth habit. So as you bring different trees home, you're gonna be able to learn all from start to finish every tree's needs, and I think that's the exciting thing about bonsai is that you're learning about different trees, and you kind of start to know them intimately, how they grow and everything. So, okay, any questions? Yes.
Water, how wet do you want to keep it?
Oh, okay. Well,
It depends on the species.
yeah. Well, I have a watering system, and then like in my growing garden, I'll water almost every day in the summertime. But your tree should last. Say if you're growing in a container, just a 5-gallon container, so that should last one good watering per day. If it's not, then the soil's not holding the moisture properly. Now, in your bonsai trees, my area gets pretty hot in the summer. I'll water at least twice a day on some of the bigger trees, just to keep it moist enough. And, so, yes.
When you water, do you water in the root or do you water, like, spray the whole?
Oh, okay. Well, I have a watering system that, some trees like California junipers, you don't want the whole thing to get wet because the gin and shari they start to rot faster. So I have one bench that has drippers that just waters the soil. But on this other bench, it's a spray. So things like deciduous trees, they like that extra moisture all over.
Okay, so it
So-
depends on the
Yeah,
species. Okay.
yeah. So if there's a lot of gin and shari, you don't want to keep wetting that all the time. You want to just water the soil.
Mhm.
Okay?
But Lindsay,
Yes.
if you have the right soil, can you water until it drips out
Yeah.
and then it's done?
Yeah. Well, that's what it should be. You should be able to water it deep enough so it drips out the bottom.
Okay,
And if it's a real hot day, then you may need a second water.
okay.
How shallow the pot is.
So keep going until it drips.
I would.
Okay.
Soak it really good.
Do you use perlite in any of your soil?
You know that cactus has some perlite in it.
Yeah, but you don't add extra perlite in?
I do on some of my mixes that for just growing things. If I wanted to have, if it's a type of plant that needs more aeration, more oxygen, then I'll add some perlite.
Yeah, because I have a lot of succulents.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, you could do that. You could add it. Okay, I think we're just about ready for our regular meeting. Any more questions? Just give me a holler. I'll be here.
Okay.
All right.